Okay, we're gonna call this meeting to order. It is 2:33 PM on Thursday, September 11th. And with it being September 11th, I would ask everybody to please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Well, first things first, we'll do the roll call. Ms. Walsh? Present. Mr. DeSantis? Here. Mr. Linderman?
Present.
Ms. Howe?
Here.
Ms. Witt? Here. Ms. Hamilton?
Here, I'll call myself.
Ms. Martin's here, so we do have quorum.
And if I may, I'd like to introduce John Morey. He's joining us from FHWA, and he is, you may have heard that Mike Biggie has moved from the FHWA planner position to deputy administrator for Alaska Division. And John is going to be filling in until they have somebody else on board. And he has a long history actually with AMATS going back. He was around when I first came on board working with Steve Morris and then later with Lance as ICE-T was being implemented. So he's got a long background with DOT and FHWA and planning in general, so I welcome him.
Thank you.
And then also Jim Amundsen is visiting us as well again from Central Region.
I'm the other half of
Highway
the
design.
candidate.
Yeah.
John, how do you spell your last name?
Lohrey.
Yes. That's true. I've already spoken to him. I'll also recognize that Assemblymember Tim Steele is also in the audience.
Back to running
I know. Being incognito, I told him I was jealous of his business. All right. Craig, would you mind doing a call meeting?
Yes, all of the AMATS meetings are public meetings. If we have a business item, we'll have a presentation by staff or consultant, and the committee will be given a chance to discuss the matter, and then at that point, the public will be invited to comment.
So first thing on the list, the approval of the agenda. Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Howe, seconded by Ms. Linderman. Mr. Morris joined us. Do we have any opposed to the approval of the agenda? Hearing none, we are so moved. All right, next up, we actually have August meeting approval of meeting minutes. We have August 14, 2015 in front of us.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Howe, seconded by Mr. Linderman. Are there any opposed to the approval?
30 seconds.
And we are so moved. Yes, and thank you for having them. It's great to read what we did last month and have it right here. Up record show Mr. Wilbur joined us as well. Great. Moving right along, we are actually on to the first business item, 5A, which is the 2011 to 2014 administrative modification number 13.
Let Mr.
I'll do it.
Boyle handle that.
So last month I came to you with the obligation report, and we had a modification to the tip as in relationship to the ob report. However, I inadvertently made a mistake on two of the projects in the tip, so I needed to go back and correct those dollar amounts. So what you have in front of you is I had to go and correct the pavement replacement program. And the appropriate dollar amount that I should have put in there was $47.40 instead of the $7.8 million. And then also for the Eagle River Rehab Project, I put $3.4 million in, and I should have left it at 0. Now, I do need to point out that this is strictly just for the tip, but the Eagle River Road Project and the extra dollars that we put in for payment replacement, again, are taken care of in the obligation report, and with DOB will be covered by DOBs or ACs or that sort of thing. So just needed to correct this because the way I had it, we went over $6 million in our allocation, and that wouldn't work. So it's a correction.
And it was my bad.
All right, so they did receive that additional funding, it's just for the DOBs and everything.
Right. I just should not have reflected it in the tip.
The projects will still be happening. It's not part of our allocation, it's part of the allocation.
Got it.
And I'm just
Any other questions or comments from the committee? That means now open to the public. Are there any questions or comments on 2011 and 2014 administrative modification number 13? Bless you. Thank you. Hearing none, the matter lies with the committee. Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Witt, seconded by Mr. Lindgren. Are there any opposed to the motion? Hearing none, we are so moved. Okay, next up is item 5B, the Public Transportation Representative's Letter. Now, this is the one that's coming for us.
You have seen this previously.
Yes.
And the last time we had it, the question that came before us was basically, did the Alaska Railroad have an opportunity to look at it? Did they make comments? And did we find out for certain whether or not anything that we do in this regard, AMATS does in this regard, would cover the Alaska Railroad's certification as well? They go through a process the same as we are about to do this in the next quarter or so for our certification, and this is one of those items that would come before it. And so I clarified with both FTA and FHWA that the changes that we have suggested and the discussion here in the last paragraph regarding AMATS taking advantage of the exemption that's authorized in MAP 21 would cover the railroad as well, so that they wouldn't have any certification issues. So we've gotten that confirmation, now it's back before you, know that AMATS will be covered by this, as will the railroad. And I'm assuming Public Transportation Department as well in their certification.
So Craig, this really, the makeup of the AMATS Technical Advisory Committee as it stands, the makeup and representation of the policy committee as it is and stands will not change.
Will not change, that's correct.
And that meets your certification.
Yeah. And as information, it did, in our triennial review just came through, it was one of the things FTA checked as far as doesn't meet their whatever, so this would fix that for us as well.
Yeah, we believe, staff believes, that we are covered by the language that was in Safety Lou and now MAP 21 related to public transportation providers on that policy committee by virtue of having the mayor representing the public transportation department. There's some gray area there, and so we decided we would take the route of utilizing the exemption, which would mean, even though we think we're covered, we're asking to be exempted from that requirement.
Any other questions or comments from the committee at this time? Then I will open it to public comment. Are there any comments on the public transportation representative letter that is before us? Hearing none, the matter lies with the committee.
Madam Chair, I move to recommend approval of this letter to the policy committee, Craig, to the policy committee.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wilder, seconded by Ms. Pyle. Are there any opposed to the motion? Hearing none, we are so moved. And we are in time because it had to happen before October, correct? Yes, okay. Great. All right, are there any other business items?
I don't.
All right. Moving right along then, we're on to our informational reports. First off, item 6A is AMATS comments on notice of proposed rulemaking.
So the feds passed the law, MAP 21, and at some point later on, the regulations. We have a, in this case, the notice of proposed rulemaking that says, here's how we're interpreting this law and regulations, et cetera. And so that goes in, they're called the NPRM, Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. Those NPRMs come out often. In this case, there was an NPRM that came out on statewide and non-metropolitan transportation planning and metropolitan transportation planning. So the policy committee chair, Mr. Campbell, asked that we comment on those. So I've provided some comments here. These are draft. They haven't, no one else has taken a look at this, but I just asked for these here, and here's an informational item. We are required, the deadline was September 2nd, I believe, and that has been extended. And so we have some time on this, but we'd like to get to these, and they're pretty specific rules and regulations, et cetera. But, and my main comments were, the general comment relates to what Mr. Campbell talked about, how there seems to be an excess of repetitive or duplicative requirements throughout map 21, and it's often a challenge to try and mesh those all together. And so that was the general comment there, and then I added the comment in on the public transportation representative on MPO boards. We strongly believe, and working through AMPO, many MPOs around the country strongly believe that the language that was in Safety New in map 21 left a lot of those decisions up to the boards themselves to determine how they want to have transit at the table. And the language that came out in the rulemaking that said you can't have a elected representative representing transit, et cetera, just because that's one of your departments, which is what we have always thought in the past, was you have the mayor representing the city of Anchorage, and one of his departments is public transportation department, and so that is the way to have the public transportation there. The proposed rulemaking specifically says that would not, you can't utilize that if it's an elected official. So that's why the language is there saying, pull that out of whole cloth. We don't believe that showing up in that 21. And then the last comment that I had was on the second page, which was funding for non-metropolitan planning purposes. The language that they're interpreting suggests that they can use some of those the PL funds that come to the state of Alaska for non-metropolitan areas. And so our suggestion would be that these funds come into the state of Alaska due to the amount of MPOs that you have, and to utilize those in non-metropolitan areas seems a little odd. So I threw those out there. Those are some comments and from me. Happy to kick it around, happy to have a work session if you'd like, but this was at the direction of our policy committee chair to have some comments on this project.
Just a question. How many MPOs are like Anchorage that have a single, that are encompassed by a single governing entity? Because most MPOs
Boy, if
oversit lots of them.
if there are more than 2 or 3, I have looked and I haven't seen them.
My
So
suggestion would be to come from that perspective. Point out that the lack of the rule handling, everyone handling our situation, and then trying to make a one-size-fits-all rule into a group that obviously does not mean, and then use it as an example, as that might be a better way to frame it, because I think might be other times that they just may not be aware that there are instances like us where it just doesn't make sense, and maybe ask for exceptions or something.
I did have that language in an earlier draft, so, but that's a good point. I mean, that's kind of my point here, I think, and that was the point of a lot of the other MPOs, is that you can't do one size fits all. It should be up to the individual MPO to decide how to best bring folks to the table. I mean, we've had transit at the table for as long as the group's been around. Certainly a very active.
I just think that it's not quite as clear that our MPO only has one government. And if that was like right there, that would have a lot more punch to it. Just the only comment. Otherwise, it's just good.
When's the deadline for submission? Is it next month?
It's sometime next month.
So if we have comments, or there's a couple of things, there's wordsmithing under yearbook editor comes out. But the one thing I would recommend is being very clear on what the recommendation is, whether it's like on the public transportation representation, whether you support the provision in the draft regs that would make us exempt. Either recommending that stay put, or that they eliminate this requirement entirely, and then give a citation of the the section, and
Okay.
so that it's real clear to those, because they're gonna be compiling these, and they usually do kind of like a Q&A. Summary response, so those are just two recommendations. But I can send them to you, however you want to handle it.
That'd be great. So,
Any other questions or comments?
Just see me and the mayor sitting on there voting. It's like, what are you gonna do? All right,
A lot more, don't
Yeah.
that was my point.
Yeah. I'll follow you.
For some reason, that just makes me think of me and my dad, and I would just, I always had to have the last word, it was always such a competition just to.
See, my-
Poke the bear.
The thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way about the exemption is, you know, as I said, I believe we have transit at the table, and I've always felt that. Obviously, we have the Public Transportation Department on our technical committee. But to say, well, the requirement is to have transit at the table, but we are going to exempt ourselves from that, that's kind of saying, we don't want to do that. We're doing it already, but because of the way they're writing this language or interpreting it, we're saying, well, we get to have this opt-out clause where we don't have to comply with that. We're complying with it already, but the way it's narrowly written, we have no real choice but to opt out.
A different perspective that
Having
there's
one government
government
entity.
entity, right?
Well, and you can also tell by reading that whoever was helping with the writing had a specific MPO in mind, and put that in as a way but irrespective, but having a recommendation recommending that the MPOs determine for themselves how best to ensure and self-certify that they do on the technical or the policy level. However, but a recommendation and a citation of the section.
And this is an informational item.
So by when do you want comments? You want to get them out here?
It'd be nice in just a couple of weeks.
So that it's for the policy committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
The policy committee
It's in 2 weeks.
meets in 2 weeks, and we want it,
So within a week, we should have comments. Can you email us the word
will.
portion? Thanks.
Our next informational item is item 6B, the AMATS public participation.
So we have existing public participation plan, and this is an update to it. And my thought was to bring it to you today in this, as an informational item, and you would have the opportunity to kick it around a bit. If you want to have a work session on it, you can do that. And then hopefully at the next month's meeting, we would put it out for 30-day public review, and then adopt it after that. So obviously there are a lot of format changes to it. Joni has worked on this for quite a while, and we went through all the staff, the staff, both AMATS and DOT, or municipal staff and DOT. So it's been kicked around a bit. There's obviously a bit of a rebranding. You can see the logo there. We have changed the S in our name from solutions to system. I think to make a little more sense for us. One of the major changes that is included in this, and probably really the only major change, is the idea that currently we have our Planning and Zoning Commission that acts as our Citizens Advisory Commission. There is some value to that. However, at our last certification, it was made very clear that the Federal Highways and Federal Transit Administration were concerned about the representation that that group gave us, and strongly suggested that we work on making that group a little more representative. Well, that's a municipal board. It's not something we can control the membership on. And so in years past, AMATS has had a separate Citizens Advisory Committee That is what we're proposing in this draft here. So that's probably the biggest change, that we would create our own citizen advisory committee. They would probably meet quarterly or as needed in order to look at all of our different plans and give us insight based on a good cross-representation of the community.
Does it also, Craig, does it also streamline our approval processes so that, does it take 6 months to get an amendment adopted?
Well, that's part of that's one of the reasons why we are looking at
So it
the
is-
suggested.
So it's streamlining that, because, okay, when you get rid of that.
Right now,
schedule-
to get on the Planning and Zoning Commission, you have to get your documentation to them almost a month and a half in advance. And
Okay,
just
so that
because
means
their
so.
schedule is so busy, and they have so many cases that they deal with, and they only take plans, et cetera, on one of their meetings in a month. They don't take them at every single meeting, and so it just is a challenge to get through them sometimes. So that was part of it. Again, the other thing was the feds had concerns about how much they represented our citizens and neighbors. So that should speed up the process if we are able to tell a citizen advisory committee, 2 weeks from today, you're meeting and here's the plan you're gonna work on, as opposed to about a month and a half from now, we'll probably get this to you, and then 3 weeks after that, maybe you'll decide.
I just don't know. So, I'm assuming this is the first time this has been out and about or been talked about, correct?
Yes, it was posted on our agenda page for a little while, but yeah, this is the first time you folks have seen it.
I really think we need to have a work session. I would really like to have shown where it fixes the problem we had with the amendment where the mayor of Palmer or the legal used our public process to make us re-go and extend the public comment period. The other thing is, I don't have a problem with rebranding or rechanging. I do have a problem with using it before it's been approved. So on our existing new thing, it makes it appear that it's already been approved because it's on our official today's paperwork. So I think it causes confusion. People think that it's already been done because it's on there and being used when people even haven't had a chance to talk about it, look at it, or whatnot. I mean, the process that set up this logo and the charts that showed what was happening over the course of the year, a lot of that went to a lot of work, and none of that's in here anymore, and it's all gone. So, remember those were the round
Oh,
calendars
yes,
that moved
those
around?
should be, yeah.
That's all gone. So, I really think it'd be good to talk about all that and really look at the differences and the changes that you're proposing, because it might be an update, but it looks like a replacement. And while I don't have problems with anything new, I just think that we have a perception we have to be careful of because it is our public involvement process. And our main public involvement process plan should follow everything we have currently and not, and may go too far in advance before we've actually gone through it. And the last one went through huge groups and work groups and work sessions and tons of stuff. And this is not. I think you're changing it completely. So I just, being that I went through that one, and I don't know how many people are still around doing that, but I just worry, and I think a work session would be very important, and that we really think about how we want to roll this out and not have stuff out already pre-definite that's complete. So that's, not to say that anything that what it looks like is wrong. I'm just saying the process. I'm a little uncomfortable with how this is going.
Great. Did you want me to just weigh in a little bit? Just because I worked on the plan and took the old plan that we had to format this one. And just to address your concern about it being changed completely. Most of the content from the old plan is continued on in the new plan. Those calendars that you're referring to, those did get taken out. But mostly those were showing a certain number of things going on in the month that the review panel that went through this plan decided we didn't need to show anymore. So but the main events that we felt were important are still included in that calendar.
That's fine.
But yeah,
I look
but
forward
we'll
to
bring that
having-
in the work session.
Yeah, absolutely, I think it's great. I don't have any, I'm just pointing out that there's significant differences, it's the first time we've seen it, and whatnot.
And that's partly why we brought it to you just as an informational item, to say, get your first look at it. When we have the work session, we'll, really get into it, and then we'll have a public review period and do that sort of stuff. So we'll have a lot of opportunity to weigh in on it.
So we'll have process for the process. Okay.
And we're following the
Process squared.
plan that was in the.
Right, oh, I know.
For reviewing this, the public, the current plan, so.
So will the work session be before our next TAC?
That's,
And I will not be there. Just not,
anytime between now and the next TAC.
pretty much.
Not my fault you decided to go to China.
I know.
We do not have a time frame on this.
Yeah.
We could have this at the November TAC for a release. So we could have the work session in October. I don't have any problem with that. There's no burning fire to get this thing updated in October versus November. So I don't have any problem with that.
We'll need to send out the doodle or whatever it is, figure out everybody's, but yeah, I leave next Thursday and we'll be gone for a couple of weeks on the trip, so I will need to go through it,
As far as I'm concerned, the more public involvement, the more time spent on this, the better. I don't want any surprises besides the ones we've already given you.
And I just want to add real quick also that one of the main things that we focused on when redoing the old plan was just to make sure that this plan was a little bit more user-friendly for people who weren't involved in transportation planning. So hence the focus on more graphics that were a little bit easier to follow along, and visuals and maps and charts, like this one on page 26 that takes people through the approval process for the AMATS plan. So as you're looking through it, in preparation for the work session, for your questions, that's kind of what we were doing. So just keep an eye for that. Thank you.
I went through it and looked at it online, and when I was just going through it, it looks pretty good. I just know Teresa had nothing to do with this, because there's not one picture of a truck anywhere. Where was Teresa?
We do have a picture of a freight truck that you get taken out at some point. Yeah.
And then, I don't know,
There's a
just
train?
check, there's a train, I did notice that. There's no bus, but there's a bus stop. Since it was
There's a
very
lot
quiet.
more transit in there for you.
But just,
Took
Joni
care
or
of
Craig,
it,
just
too.
on page 9, there's a graph of funding. There's like $1, 2, 3, $4 million more shown in 2014.
And-
400 million.
That, so the little sentence right on the top of that graph says, the 2014 reflects a large amount of funding allocated to the kindergarten crossing project. So
Allocated by.
Well, it's in the tip, in the illustrative in table 8. And so we debated whether we should take that out, and, yeah.
It's,
I
like
can do
it's to
that.
be reflective of what's in this disc.
Yeah.
Overall, I thought it was very readable, I mean, just even online without the paper copy, and so I had some comments that I'll make in the work session, but overall, I think it was a great place to start.
We kicked that particular item back and forth. Should we take that out? Because it seems, wow, it's huge.
And I would agree too, that to withhold using the new logo until this has gone through some sort of approval process. I was confused too the first time I saw it and saw the new names, like what I kept correcting it because we're still Solutions, not System. We used to be System, now we're Solutions.
We were
Solution- we're
Or we're
studying.
studying, sorry, yeah.
So we're studying now, we're currently Solutions,
and now
and now you're.
System. And I think we ought to hold off using the logo. I mean, I agree with some making.
As someone who's relatively new to the committee, what is the process for approving the
Well,
name?
the policy committee has to approve it as part of the public involvement. And they haven't even seen this.
So I guess you could put draft by the logo and draft by the name.
There you go.
It's draft on the plan.
Yeah. And I would correspondence and everything has been.
I'm really happy with the picture of the meeting that has all the people in it. It happily cuts me out of the picture, so I thumbs up for that.
Oh my God, what page is that?
Page
What did Jeff
12.
Odyssey
You can
comes
see
to,
the side
get
view.
that.
Page 12. You see Mr. Lindsay, Mr. Beaver, Mr. Sentence, actually.
Oh my God, okay.
I know, I'm not there.
I'm not in it.
I probably raised a kid.
And we switch all the time, so we're not.
The big meeting.
We had something that must have been,
That must have been the bike meeting.
I think it was the bike meeting, it's the
Oh, yeah.
bike guy standing up, right?
That is like,
That's Todd Logan.
Sorry, regular packed meeting.
Okay. All right, so, do a doodle.
Do folks want me to do it for the October timeframe, since, or whenever our chair gets back?
Yes.
I'll be back, well, it's up to you guys, but I'll be back starting Monday, October 6th. So, I have no other planned absences for the rest of the
Okay. I'll start looking at that timeframe.
So, our next informational item is the 2015-18 TIP narrative.
Okay, so this is something that was requested by FHWA, something that was done many years ago before I got here, but this is the narrative that goes with the TIP tables. When we've adopted the TIP, since I've been here, it's always been the TIP tables, which is just the Excel spreadsheet, and so this is the narrative that would go with it. So this is just a draft before you, and I looking to get comments, and it's just designed to show, this is what we would have as our document, which would show, yes, we have the tables, which gives you the dollar figures and the schedule and all that sort of stuff, but this would include the criteria that we adopted, the things that went into deciding our criteria, the policy and procedures that says what percentage we put in each area, et cetera, et cetera.
so this is the old one or the new one?
This is going to be, this is the draft. Jamie has been working on this, so you can see at the back there are appendices which would have all of those items in there, which is the formatting to
Okay.
easy view. But so this is something we were just kind of throwing by you as well. Another of those no surprises sort of thing that let you look at it, and we'll work on it during the next month and have this at the October timeframe to approve. We've already, obviously, the policy committee has already approved the TIP. It's gone off to federal highways, et cetera. It's
good.
So,
Is it just the first policy procedure you're thinking of
Yes.
putting, or all of them?
I was just going to put the one that specifically said in, unless you have recommendations to put all of them in.
Because doesn't the conformity? have-
The conformity has an appendix in there, and
Okay.
that'll be in there.
Oh, that's for the
Mhm.
policy procedure appendix?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, Appendix D is the
Right, I didn't know if you were going to put the policy procedure into that.
I'll put that policy and procedure under the air quality piece. I was gonna keep all of the light documents together, so all the public involvement pieces will be public involvement under that appendix. And then, once you guys have a chance to review it, if format makes sense or if it
Do you have
doesn't.
the committee listed?
The committees? The committees are listed.
I think this looks good. Yeah, yeah.
So you want to have this adopted in October, so if you have any comments, should we send them through you, Craig, or?
Send them to me and Jamie, but, I mean, you've already adopted the TIP itself. You can, I guess it's up to you folks if you want to adopt this as well, or just have it be presented to you. I'm happy either way, but either way, it should come back before you maybe.
You probably should come through the policy committee.
Yeah, no, definitely we don't do that.
If somebody who knows nothing about the TIP, read this and see if that makes sense.
Oh, that could be me.
Sharon, see if this makes sense.
Okay.
That's a good point, but it's also, that's what we wanted to do with the public involvement plan. is, you know, make it graphically pleasing, so someone who knows nothing about any of this would want to actually go, oh, I'll take a read through this, instead of just having it be what James and I look at when we try to remember if we needed a 30-day or 45, or which way we had to go and all that sort of stuff. It should be something that someone would actually want to pick up.
Did you guys summarize that?
What's that?
Did you guys summarize that, the timeframes?
Yeah.
Things up fast, well, cool.
And you'll see in the tip narrative also some of the same language from the PPP about the timeframes and things were used
The tricky
also.
part is that now we have to make sure there's some caveats in there that allows us to either do things at the same time when we double process stuff, or if there's a changing, because we need to do it without being totally tied legally to this document. So I hope that's what we need to see at the work session for sure. Let's go back and look at that case, find out where it fits, see if we can't put some language in it, allows us some flexibility.
And I'll have some comments on the financial plan and just to tighten up the accounting for some of the, you know, how does that work?
Absolutely, great, thank you.
Because basically the STIP dedicates the amount based on formula to the tip. And at that point, inflation isn't really part of it.
Okay.
It's based on the obligation limit and stuff like that, so.
You're not alone, Sharon. I feel like I'm always learning. So maybe I'll read this on my flight back from China.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be new to me. I'm reading.
That's what we call a vacation.
It's a 13 and a half hour plus flight. We're gonna be out in the. I'm gonna have time. Yeah. All right. Are there any other informational reports?
I have a question. How's the contract going?
How's the contracting going? Let's see, the MTP RFP has gone out for internal review, just within my staff. Vivian is the one who wrote it, is managing that. She went to the ITS conference in, I believe it was in Texas, with her family. So she wrote it, gave it to us, and we kicked it around a little bit. And we'll,
And we would like to review it at DOT at staff level.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Did we
So-
decide whether we were going to be able to do an interim or not? And what the results of that was, and whether that, and how that fits into that contract?
We had preliminary discussions with both FTA and FHWA, and they thought that that would probably not be a problem. They asked us to send a formal letter laying it out, and,
Is this something the staff can do,
yeah.
do the interim?
Well, the staff could do the interim, but,
Well, that was the other big question we had at that work session.
Right.
Whether could staff do the work, because that would impact how we wrote the contract.
right. And so I guess we thought that having staff do that would make it, would be a lot of work and a lot of challenge. If we wrote it into the NTP RFP, we could have that one contractor do it all and get it done faster and quicker. So that was what we, our takeaway from the policy committee.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we need to talk about that again.
Okay.
Because of what it takes sometimes to get a contract out and to bring a contractor up to speed as to what it is you want and need, and to, in terms of time. So maybe we
I
can.
thought one of the things we're looking at is, at least the time it sounded like DOT and others were willing to all pitch in and help, was it just paying that staff to do the whole thing, right? It sounded like everybody's kind of putting up, but that was.
I guess I thought when I last brought this up to the policy committee, they were feeling that the route of rolling it into the RFP was probably the way to go, but maybe I misunderstood that. And we discussed it at the policy committee. I presented and said, here's kind of our plan is to do the interim one, and whether we do it interim via the RFP or interim via staff.
I guess it needs to be laid out with a calendar on how long it takes to do all that and what the timeline is. Was it presented in that manner?
We did not have a specific timeline calendar, et cetera, with the interim one there. So other than that, the rest of the contracts are moving along with the exception of the freight mobility study. and that is still working its way through purchasing and the OEO and PT goals. The rest of it have all been let, as far as I know, and contractors are working.
I guess another question, Craig. I think some time ago, we had asked that we be given an update every month on the big calendar of the overlapping things that showed how we were progressing with each of those tasks. And I thought I thought we had passed a motion to require that every month.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, I don't remember that, but I will do it
Am I-
from here on out.
I
Anybody
thought it was like-
remember here?
I thought we did that too, because we were looking at this part of the Unified Work Program and how that was working and all interrelated, because we were worried about where the funding was lining up in the different categories. In addition to the timing of the NTP, and that's when we started talking about the interim measure, because we were trying to figure out how we were going to maintain a thorough job on the surveys, the household survey, and keep those contracts going, but meet the interim requirement and get that kind of on our plate, but still maintain. And so there was a balancing there, why it was really, we were really gonna try to get the interim out as quickly as possible.
I remember that request as reflective of the quarterly reports. We do our reports quarterly, we get our information quarterly from Controller's office. I don't get it more often than that,
Right,
so
but that
that's
was
my.
partly for the
so-
UPWP,
Right.
but monthly for the calendars on how everything was fitting together.
That big flow chart. that-
Yeah, or something smaller, but it was just a matter of keeping everything updated.
I remember discussing it, I'm just trying to, it's been a couple months ago.
It was a work session.
Yeah, we have minutes, we go back and look.
But I think it was at the work session we actually asked for that, so it may not have necessarily been a formal motion. So can I'll make, it's not a business on the, would it be okay to do that, to make a motion right now about requesting that we get a monthly calendar update?
Thought we had.
I can't remember, but, I mean, it sounds, I think we did, but I'm not 100% sure.
And we just make a request to check the record, and that's what you ask for. We do it. If you haven't asked for it, make it a motion next time, and make it a business item next time.
We would like to see it next
Yeah.
time, that's the problem.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Maggie knows that.
Yeah, that's okay.
There's no problem with showing it next, I mean, we'll bring it next time easily, it's not an issue. We can
But
do it monthly, so.
that would be good, because this whole, the interim, whether it's internal or external, is gonna be largely dependent on the allocation of staff for all of these other efforts.
Right.
And the timing of it, and can we achieve it? Given our recent experience getting contracts on the road, on the street, we just would have to make sure that there's enough effort and time allocated to that. And so I think it ties back to the bigger picture, because actually it was that type of conversation that led us to suggest that we do an interim instead of a full-blown, because there just wasn't enough. But, yeah, I'd be okay going back and checking the record and proposing a way from that. But can we have it next month, though, we know where we are with, and to show it in a way that can be taken back to what the original plan was.
And I just forgot, if we do have it, if the record shows that we did have it, we'll just make it item 6A on every month's, that way it's on every month's agenda, and that way we just, it's there, and we can touch base on it each time.
yeah, I mean, even if it
Just request
doesn't
it.
matter, just put it
Just
on
be
there.
6A. I don't think that there's, anything formal like that.
There, I guess that was kind of committee comments. Are there any other committee comments at the time?
So I have a question. Has the household survey officially started? Are people are people keeping diaries?
Teresa's gonna do her update. There was this 6D other information
informational items and,
Sorry.
yeah.
We were right over that. so-
I did mine on Tuesday.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, the household travel survey has started. The initial surveys went out September the 9th, and the final travel date will be October the 23rd. And we have received, I believe, about 135 completed household travel surveys for the region so far. So we're just looking forward to that. So if you've got an invitation, please participate, and you'll get your $10 gift card from either Amazon or Walmart. And if you have a large family, then you get $20. And then also, I just wanted to give you a heads up that RSG Incorporated, who is conducting our household regional travel survey, will be up here October the 9th to do an update on the travel demand model. And that will be Jeff Rakanja and his crew. And they will present, we hope, early in your agenda for the TAC meeting, and then break out for a model users group, which will include some of the local consultants to find out what some of their needs are. So just wanted to have you put that on your calendars and be sure to attend.
I had a random comment. Another committee I'm on is the School District Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. And because of that, I went to some of the one of the presentations Tuesday night on the 6th grade, what to do with 6th graders, whether to keep them in middle school. We have three middle schools, that's 6, 7, 8. The rest are all elementary schools. And it was interesting because the study they had done by outside independent group was overwhelming evidence that 6th graders should stay in elementary school for the good of their performance and everything else. So they went through the whole thing. Well, what does that mean, capitalize? So, you rebuild schools, you close schools, and they didn't address the transportation piece of it. And the question came up, and I was like, oh yeah. If you close these schools and you do all this redistricting, it's been looking at the cost of the facility, but it hadn't necessarily figured in the cost of the transportation changes. The busing system. For example, they use the euphemism consolidate. They mean close elementary schools, neighborhood schools, and redistrict. So if you close 2 or 3 schools, then there's going to be more busing. I mean, that's just all there is to it, taking away a lot of the walking routes. So that transportation piece really wasn't considered. So this question of household travel woke me up on that. It's like there is a piece that maybe this group should be paying attention to, or just keeping track of. What goes on with that could really affect the transportation situation here.
Especially where it's peak hours now for.
Well, unfortunately, they also need to do a study on how many people are actually just driving their kids to school, or just allowing them to take the buses, because most of our schools are not adequately designed to handle the load of parents that are driving their kids to school rather than busing them.
And there's the last presentation is at Mears tonight. I think we start at 6:30. So if you happen to, if that's convenient for you to go, you might want to do that. Otherwise, go to the school district website and take a look at the study. But you'll notice the absence of discussion about transportation, depending on what we do next.
As part of the travel demand model, we contact schools and learn about their students' population and try to estimate the number of trips being generated via bus or by parents. And so that would be a good piece of information to pass on.
Because it may change drastically in a way that no one was expecting at this point.
And Teresa, is there still a way you can volunteer to provide information, right?
You sure can. Just go onto the website. I believe it's HTTP Regional Household Travel Survey.
You got that email first when it started, but none of the links were. I mean, they sent out another email, because I forwarded that to a lot of people, and they were like, it was the it's coming.
That was a sample.
Right, but if you resend it now, it's going for a volunteer. We're more than happy to send that out, and we probably can get more people on that certainly.
You could probably get RSG to, Teresa, to send out an email to you, and then you can just forward it out
Send it to
there.
AMATS. I mean, we use the AMATS system and send it to everybody on the AMATS mailing list. You know, you can forward that, the official AMATS one out and about.
Jamie, did you
Yeah, I had a quick update. I sent out on Monday the call for nominations for Human Service Transportation Coordination grants for the Alaska Mental Health Trust funding. Now that the Public Transportation Department is the direct recipient of the 5310 funds for elderly and disabled, the only pot of money that we have for the competitive process is the Alaska Mental Health Trust funds. So with JARC and New Freedom repealed and consolidated, I have roughly $550,000 that'll go out. It's 2 years worth of funding. So we asked for project nominations, just a preliminary call for them, and then the application process will open in October and close in December, working very closely with the state, the office in Juneau for Alaska Community Transportation. So be having updates on that soon. And then that plan will also start being updated internally in October. So it's at the end of its life. So.
Thank you. All right, any other informational items?
Oh, just one, the Spinard Corridor Strategic Plan RFP just went out also for internal review, so we'll be reviewing that and then sending that on to ADOT. Just keep heads out for that.
So any other committee comments?
You know, complimentary to the household survey, the contractor will also be helping us do an onboard survey on our buses, and that will start the 17th or the 18th of September and run until the 28th, I think, of September. And it's an onboard survey done by, and asking folks their origin, destination, trip purpose. Similar, I think will also at the same time help the household survey information. So we're looking forward to seeing that done too.
All right. So the next scheduled AMATS meetings is the policy committee meeting, which is 2 weeks from today. Typically held down at City Hall on the 30th, and then we will be back here next month, October 9th.